morning, students. In the last class, we were discussing about equity shares. What does equity share means, and what are its advantages, and what are its salient features. Fine. So, first of all, we are discussing about ownership capital market instruments. So, capital market instruments can be categorized into two parts. One is ownership, and another one is creditorship. So, we are discussing about ownership. Under ownership, we have discussed equity shares. In today's class, we are going to discuss about preference shares. So preference shares are nothing but they have some advantages, or the shareholders, such type of preference shareholders enjoy two privileges. One is preference as to pay of dividend at a fixed rate. Fine. So this one, what happens in case of equity shares? Suppose if the profit is 100 rupees and interest on the loan is paid 20 rupees, remaining 80, and preferential dividend. In this profit, out of this profit, preference dividend is paid. That means preference dividend is, say for example, some percentage. It is also fixed, like interest is also fixed. And preference shareholders also enjoy the right on fixed payment of dividend. So fixed rate of dividend. So if you discuss about capital structure of the company, capital structure consists of equity shares. See, this is the 1,000 rupees capital. Structure of this company is equity is there, preferential shareholders are there, and debenture is there, debt, bank loan. So what happens in these two cases, preferential shares and debentures, they get fixed rate of return on their investment, or fixed rate of interest in case of debenture, fixed rate of dividend in case of preference shares. But what happens to equity shares? If the remaining profit after, see, is the preference share 20 rupees dividend, fixed rate of dividend, as promised earlier while issuing preference shares. So remaining 60, this 60 rupees is equally distributable to all the shareholders. Say for example, number of equity shares are 10, then each shareholder will get rupees 6 as dividend. So dividend is nothing but dividend is the part of profit. These are all the profit, part of profit, which is distributable among, which is equally distributable among its shareholders. That is equity shares. Fine. So that is called dividend. So dividend is nothing but part of profit, which is equally distributable, or which is distributable among shareholders of the company. Is called equity shares. So there are 10 number of equity shares. Then the remaining profit, 60 rupees, is equally distributed among these 10 shareholders. So each shareholder got rupees 6 as dividend. So dividend is clear now. So this is called dividend. Fine. Very important concept from the same point of view. So dividend is nothing but part of profit which is distributable among shareholders. What happens in this case? If the debenture, if the loan is taken from any financial institution or bank, we have to pay interest. If we issue preference shares, we have to distribute dividend, and that is also very fixed. Even before distributing, even before starting the business itself, it is decided that we have to distribute, we have to issue preference shares, and the rate of return on these shares is predetermined. So these two gets the fixed rate of dividend. That means if I am an individual, if I buy or subscribe preference shares, that means I know how much I am going to get after 1 year or after a certain financial period. So if I am investing 100 rupees in certain companies, ABC companies preference shares, that means well before the profit is earned, I know what is my part of what I get. after end of financial period. That is what the advantage of this thing, preference shares. So, and equity shares, we never know. Equity shareholders never know what is the return on their investment, because the remaining profit is equally distributed. If there is no profit at all, these shareholders never get anything. Fine. So the preference shares are those shares which enjoy two preferential rights. Which are they? One is preference as to payment. So the preference is given here. After paying the interest to the financial institution or bank, the remaining profit is distributed to preference shareholders than over than equity. Equity shareholders comes next. So these shareholders have preferential right on this profit over equity shareholders, because equity shareholders, after paying the dividend to preference shareholders only, equity shareholders get their dividend. Fine. This is the one feature or one advantage of the preference shares. What happens if this company closes its business? That means company shut its door. What happens if I am an preferential investor? I subscribe to this ABC company's preference shares. Then, when this company winds up, that means it closes its business, it shuts its door. This company, when it closes or it terminates its business, then this company realizes all its fixed assets. That means land and building, factory premises, its vehicles, and other properties, everything this company sells off. Then, if after selling everything, when this company closes or terminates its business, when this company sells everything belongs to them, they get, say for example, they get around 800 rupees. When they get 800 rupees, they have a debenture or long-term loan from, say for example, State Bank of India. They have the loan amount of 500 rupees. So, the first of all, when they realize their assets, realize means when they sell their entire asset, entire factory, they are obliged to pay interest plus principal amount borrowed from financial institution, that is 500. The remaining 300, these preferential shareholders have right on this profit, even though equity shareholders are considered as owners of the company, and equity shares are called common shares and ordinary shares, and equity shareholders are considered as owners of the company. They never get their investment back until this preferential share amount is liquidated or paid off. Then, if among this 300, in this 300, if the preference shareholders' capital is 200 and remaining 100 is the equity shareholders have right over this amount, the remaining. That's what point B explains. Preference as to the return of capital when the company wind up. Wind up means it closes its business. When it terminates its business, when all the assets are realized, after paying their debt, debenture, or loan, preferential shareholders have right on this amount. They can claim, they enjoy this amount. So these are the two unique features of preference shares which equity shares never enjoy such privileges. Now, this topic is asked for 2 marks. They may ask for 2 marks. What do you mean by preference shares? So you have to write the entire thing, the 2 points you have to mention while defining preference shares. Now, you have studied already in your PUC the types of preference shares, but Still very important topic for your SEM exam also. So types, we are going to discuss two types today and remaining we will discuss in next classes. So one is cumulative preferentials. Cumulative. The name itself explains accumulate. It accumulates. So cumulative preference shares are those shares on which the amount of unpaid dividend is carried forward. Unpaid dividend in the sense, if company is under loss this year, 100 rupee company loses this amount. There is no net profit, there is a net loss of 100 rupees. In this case, this is the year of 2020. 2020, the company is under loss. So in 2020, we cannot pay dividend because the definition of the dividend itself is part of profit distributable among shareholders. This is there is no profit, no dividend in the year of 2020. And in the year of 2021, company earns profit. So this year we are supposed to pay preferential dividend of rupees 50. So these 50 are cumulative preferentials. So in the year of 2021, company earns 200 rupees net profit. So out of this net profit, we have to pay previous year's dividend also. That is cumulative shares because unpaid dividend is carried forward to the next financial period, next financial year. So in case of in the year 2020, company under loss. So since it is under loss, dividend is not paid. If in case there are cumulative preference shareholders, then they have the right on previous years, that is unpaid dividend. They have the right on unpaid amount of the financial year 2020. So if the next year company earns profit, then it has to pay 2020's dividend. After this, they have to pay 2021's dividend. Even if in the year of 2021 also company is under loss, and in the year of 2022, company has to pay dividend of 2020, then 2021, then the current year, 2020. Excuse me. This is what cumulative preference shares. That means unpaid dividend accumulates if in case company is under loss. Accumulation, so that is why cumulative. Cumulative preference shares are those on which the amount of unpaid dividend is carried forward, and such unpaid amount is paid first of all dividend. That means all dividend in the sense dividend on equity. Because whenever there is a loss, equity shareholder never gets, they get nothing. Equity shareholders get nothing if the company is under loss. So and even if the consecutive year also there is a loss or profit, equity shareholders never get anything because the cumulative preferential shareholders have the right over equity shares. So whenever company earns profit, the previous year's dividend is also paid first. That is unpaid dividend is carried forward to the current year, and this year they have to pay previous year's dividend also. That is what cumulative preference shareholders enjoy. So unpaid amount is paid first of all whenever dividend is declared. Equity shareholders they never get before these things are settled down first. So before paying any dividend to equity shareholders, that's what we have explained now. So in the case of non-cumulative shares, the arrears of dividend do not accumulate. That is, unpaid dividend is not carried forward. If in case these shareholders are non-cumulative preference shareholders, they are not paid for this year. Whenever company earns profit, next year company earns profit, then only they get this year's dividend only, not the previous years, because the dividend is non-cumulative here in this case. So in today's class we have discussed what is preference shares and what are the two advantages they enjoy preference shareholders. And in today's session we have discussed about two different types of preference shares, and there are many types we are going to discuss in next class like convertible, non-convertible, redeemable, irredeemable, etc. etc. So in next class we are going to discuss again other types of preference shareholders. So until then you have to note down all these things in your notebook. You have to study well. Thank you.